I want to start by certainly welcoming everyone and then also introducing our esteemed Fireside Chat speaker, Janine Firpo. I'm thrilled to be here with Janine. Janine is a pioneering voice in values-aligned investing and the founder of Invest for Better, a nonprofit helping women take control of their investment dollars to create positive change. A former senior executive at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the World Bank, Janine brings over 35 years of experience in technology, impact investing, and international development. She's the author of the best-selling book, Activate Your Money, Invest to Grow Your Wealth and Build a Better World, and has been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, and Bloomberg. Most recently, she was named to the Forbes 50 over 50 list, recognizing women making an impact in the second half of life. Janine's work has transformed how thousands of women approach investing, proving that we can align our money with our values without sacrificing returns. Please join me in welcoming Janine Firpo. I know. With that, I'm sure everyone is excited to dig in for a conversation with Janine, but I'd really love to start, Janine, with just setting the stage. And can you tell everyone about your own mission-aligned investing journey? Tell us what mission-aligned investing means to you, and through to kind of where you're at on your own mission-aligned investing journey today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your presence. I appreciate all the women in this room and the few men. We need you too. So thank you very much for being here to think about how we can change the world with our money. As Lauren mentioned, I had a 35-plus year career, first in the high-tech sector in the Silicon Valley, and I left that career in the middle of 1995, just as the internet was coming on, because I had taken a solo backpacking trip through sub-Saharan Africa for 4+ months and had seen unconscionable poverty. And I decided that somehow I was going to figure out a way to work in the countries that I had visited and to work on that issue. And that decision led me to a second career that was really at the intersection of poverty, technology, and business thinking. And I got very involved in microfinance and the question of how do you scale microfinance about 25 times larger than it is without using philanthropy. And that question led people to commercialize microfinance. It also led to the discovery of what became an industry known as mobile money and the use of the cell phone to move capital and provide loans to people. So I was very involved in that as well. So I was doing all this work. I was sort of a social entrepreneur before that was really a thing. I was living in the Bay Area, commuting all over the world, and was part of the very, very early conversations around what has become known as impact investing, and went to like the first SOCAPs ever. I mean, that's how far back I go. Woo. And I realized at some point we were having these amazing conversations, primarily with people who were ultra high net wealth individuals, foundations, institutional investors, of how we could do well financially at the same time we were doing well socially. And I was, at that time, a single-digit millionaire. Low single digits. And I thought, I'm not one of these people here, but my money matters too. So how do I, as someone who is not a high net wealth individual, invest my own money in ways that align with my values, starting with my cash? And I started working toward 100% portfolio activation 20 years ago. And it was a hard road because there was not much there for someone who was in the financial situation I was. And I was putting my money at risk. I knew that I didn't know if it was going to work. I was working full on, 20-hour days, had financial advisors to help me. They weren't getting me where I wanted. So when I retired about 7 years ago, and I've realized now the only thing I retired from was a salary because I work as hard as I ever did. When I retired, I took my money back. I started looking at how I could really do this, and I realized we had gotten to a place where any of us, regardless of how little money we have, can invest in this way. And women want to do this, millennials want to do this, no one was helping us. That's why I wrote the book. I wrote it for women to teach them how to be confident investors and how to invest their money this way. And I also realized that as women, we don't want to do this alone. It's a lot of effort, and we do stuff in groups. We like to hang out with each other. We like to socialize and learn together. And so the idea of putting women into investment clubs to help them learn this material was fostered, and I found another woman named Ellen Rimmer who was thinking the same way, and together we created Invest for Better. And we have had 2,000 women trained now here, 800 people trained in Europe, and I want millions of women to understand the power and potential of their money. So I have other ideas about how I'm going to achieve that. So that's where I am now. And along the way, to be completely transparent, along the way in trying to find a great financial advisor, I just found a new one a couple of years ago, and she's been fantastic. So I'm finally happy with my financial advisor.
Thank you, Janine. We appreciate that so much. And I just want to underscore something Janine highlighted, which is that through Invest for Better, thousands of women have been trained on mission-aligned investing. So we are creating a movement, and it's a royal we. Janine is creating this movement. But I want to maybe start with the sticky and like get into some of the nitty-gritty. What are some of the biggest challenges and barriers you've seen women and people broadly trying to bulldoze through as kind of, challenges to mission aligning portfolios?
Well, for women first, the challenge is they're not paying attention to their money writ large. And this is true whether they are struggling with money or whether they have a lot of wealth. They're not paying attention to their own money. They're handing it off to some guy to invest for them. And here's the thing, ladies, we do not invest the same way that men do. So we want, for a lot of reasons, to take control of our own money and invest our own money. And I get that we don't always feel confident, but there's a way to build that confidence. And it's through talking to each other. It's about breaking the taboos around money, and it's about doing the work. In terms of the values aligned piece, all of us are in this room. We're at SOCAP because this is a passion. It's what we do for our jobs. We care about this stuff. We're working for clients. We're helping people move their money into things that align with their values. What is your money doing? I'm serious. What is your money doing? Where is it invested? Where do you have a bank account? Is it in a big bank? What are they doing with your money? Is it in a smaller bank? That would be great. What are you doing in the stock market? Are you doing this with your own money? Right? It's great to be helping the people that we're helping, but they are a tiny percentage of the total population of this country, like 10%. About 10% of this country has a net wealth of $1 million or more. That's it. The rest of us really matter too. And so I think part of the obstacle is we don't think we can do this. We don't think we can do this with our own money. We think it's only for our rich clients. We don't think it's for us. And I want to change your mind about it. It's for as much for you as it is for anybody else. So it's both around our lack of confidence as investors. We can change that. And it's about our belief that this is not for us. And we can change that too.
Wow, that's so good, Janine. I want to test this room. Show of hands, how many of you are on a professional mission alignment journey? You're doing this as a part of your career. Not a surprise, almost everyone in the room. You're at SOCAP. we expected that. Now, how many of you have taken or started a personal mission alignment journey?
A lot of you. That's great.
Okay.
Yay. That's great. Maybe I can just really retire then.
I think the majority of the work is happening outside of this room. But that's incredible. I think for all of us who are agents of impact in trying to democratize this to our friends, our family, our network, sticking on the challenges for just a minute, the biggest, challenge we hear is impact being synonymous with sacrificing returns. You have taken your own journey. You've watched thousands of other women take similar journeys. What has your experience been around performance? Is this strategy working?
I think 100%. And I think it's different in asset classes. So if you look at cash, for example, your cash is going to make about the same amount of money for you regardless of where you have it banked. And if you're banked in a smaller bank, you're also going to get way better customer service. I actually have a CD. Things have changed a little bit with the fall of the interest rates, but I have some CDs at Climate First Bank, which is only providing loans to people to help them buy EVs or solar panels or doing other things to improve the climate situation. And I'm getting close to 5.5% on that money, which is pretty good, right? I think their rates have gone down. If you're looking at fixed income, I'm invested in munis, I'm invested in education and infrastructure for the betterment of cities and communities. In the stock market, I'm getting market rate returns on that. In the stock market, I am invested in more socially responsible funds than I was before, and they're outperforming both socially and financially. I do private investing. That also, I mean, I've had some wins and I've had some losses, just like probably a lot of people here. But the ones that are winning well. And then I'm doing this in real estate too, and I've had success there. And in fact, one of the real estate deals I'm in right now, I went into it thinking it was going to be concessionary, and it may end up being one of the best real estate deals I've ever done. So we'll see.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll stick with one or two more challenges, and then we need to walk through some of those examples in a little bit more detail. But help us, I think one of the other real barriers here is access. And a lot of the market is priced out of access to private investments, where a lot of the deep thematic impact occurs. How do you address that at Invest for Better? How do you help everyone have access to the depth of impact opportunities that exist in the market today?
Well, the truth is the private deal flow, it is going to give you more impact. There's just no way you're going to get around that. You know, if you have the opportunity and the capital to make direct investments in deals, to do impact, private impact funds or private impact debt that is doing really big change, that is only for accredited investors, a lot of that. And as I said, only like 10% of us are accredited investors. So for the rest of us, we're often turned to the public markets. And even there, as I mentioned, we can think about our cash, we can think about our bonds. And even in the stock market, where a lot of women are schooled to buy broad index funds, which I actually think is a reasonably good strategy, you can also buy ETFs. You could think of a broad market fund as a horizontal and then ETFs as verticals, where you could put a little bit of your money to work. And you can buy ETFs in clean water. You can buy them in solar. You can buy them in clean energy. You can buy them in affordable housing. There's actually a lot of opportunity in the stock market that a lot of people aren't even aware exists. I didn't know it existed until I started writing my book. I learned a lot writing Activate Your Money. And then there's also the opportunity through crowdfunding. There are some funding platforms that let non-accredited investors invest in private deals at smaller levels. And you could also open an SDIRA, which is a self-directed IRA that allows you to take your retirement accounts and invest them however you want, as long as you're not double dealing. So you really have to be careful of the SDI rules. But that's another way that non-accredited investors can start doing things with more impact.
Yeah. Excellent. And then I want to kind of flip the script, backing off of challenges, and tell us a little bit about what do you see drawing women and people at large towards mission-aligned investing? What is drawing them into the space? What is keeping them around the mission alignment table? Like, what are the biggest success factors that you're seeing?
So this is not a hard conversation with most women. And I learned this when I was doing microfinance, actually. If you give poor women a loan that helps them raise more money, the first thing they do is they feed their kids better. The second thing they do is they put those kids in school. That is not what men do with the money when they get it. And the situation is very similar here. We care deeply about what our money is doing. When we go to a financial advisor, we don't want to talk about what the returns are going to be. We care about that. That is not where the conversation starts. The conversation starts with, what do we want to do with our money? What is its purpose? What are we going to use it on? How are we going to uplift ourselves? How can we uplift other women? How can we ensure we're passing a sustainable planet on to our children and our grandchildren? We care about these things. And so women come to this because it makes money meaningful. You know, we talk about financial freedom. And financial freedom is that you have enough money to do the things you want to do. Susie Orman talked about financial independence, which I think is a really important term too. She said, there are many women who are financially free. They have enough money, but they're not financially independent because they don't know anything about their money, and they're dependent on someone else to handle it for you. And I could tell you absolute horror stories of women that I've come across who have not paid attention to their money and the situation it has left them in. What I think women really want, and what I want, is financial fulfillment. I want to feel awesome around my money. I want to know it's doing things that matter, and that I am seeing that from my financial advisors. I'm seeing it from my banks who send me reports. I'm seeing it in the women that I'm helping. So I think we want more from our money, and I think that's what draws us to it. And once we realize it's possible, women are standing up.
Wow, I love that. Let's dive into some examples. Give us an impact investment that you are extremely proud of.
So that would have to, so the one I'm really proud of right now is a real estate deal that I'm in. And Lauren knows about this because her team helped me decide whether I should really do this or not. But here's the quick version of the story. So I inherited a property with my sister. It was a single family residence. She wanted to sell, and I agreed to do that, but I wanted to do something more meaningful with that money. And I live in Oakland, but I decided to invest it in Portland, and I wanted to do something that was socially responsible. By happenstance, luck, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, these two women sort of fell into my lap. They are two 30-something real estate developers. First of all, female real estate developers, that's not really a thing. So when I found them, I was super excited to help them. They are socially responsible real estate developers. They had this vision of buying 3 plots of land in Portland and building affordable and workforce housing on those plots, but they needed money. So I helped them buy their first plot of land. We found the money for the equity that we needed. We went out and we got a loan, and they did all the rest of the work. Those two ladies raised $15 million for this stuff. They created an LLC. My ownership moved into the LLC. We broke land December of last year. February of next year, we will have 36 units of workforce housing in Portland, Oregon, and they just broke ground on their second parcel of land. Wow. So it was great for me financially. It helped uplift those women. It helped them get started, and I can't tell you how proud of them I am. Every time I see them, I could cry. They're so amazing. They're so amazing.
Wow, incredible. If everyone can invest this way, we will have the world we need to see. Talk to us, what are you excited about? Where everyone in this room, it sounds like, is already on a mission alignment journey, both personally and professionally, which is incredible. How do we deepen that? Where should we be thinking about? What are the themes you're most interested in?
So last week, I was just at a conference where, if anybody has ever heard this conference, I'd love you to raise your hand. It's called FinCon. Has anyone heard of FinCon? A couple people. Okay. FinCon is super interesting. It came out of something called the FIRE movement, which stands for Financially Independent Retire Early. And it started out as a conference of people who were trying to figure out how they could create passive income streams so they could quit their day job and do what they wanted. It's turned into the Finance Influencer Conference. These are all the people who are out there on TikTok and X and YouTube and Instagram, and I don't even know the social media platforms. They're writing the blogs, they're doing the videos, and they are influencing literally tens of millions of people around finance and investing. And none of them are thinking of this. So I've been going to this conference. This is my 4th year of involvement with them, and I'm starting to make inroads. So my job there is to influence the influencers. My goal is to get these people to start integrating this kind of conversation into what they do. Because if we're going to get to the other 90%, we have to go where the other 90% are. So it was amazing. It's the coolest conference. You should think about going next year. It's going to be in Portland.
Yeah, my social media footprint is not what it needs to be, but I do follow Mrs. Dow Jones, the zillennial finance expert, and I think we need all of the people like her to be talking about mission-aligned investing. That's how we get it to go viral with the next generation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us, I think what we're starting to work toward is community. And you brought this up, and I think that was the generation behind, the idea generation behind Invest for Better. Mm-hmm. Tell us what is so important about community. What do you see happening in community, and bring us into an Invest for Better investing circle. What is that experience like?
So I've been in investment clubs 3 times in my life, primarily with women, and I have learned more in them than almost any other way I learned about investing. And the truth is, we all know more about the subject than we think we do. We are stronger in this than we think that we are. And when we actually sit down in conversation with other women, we start to realize that, and we start to gain our confidence. We start an Invest for Better circle with our money stories. What do we think about money? How were we raised around money? What are our fears around money? What are our strengths around money? And then we go into conversations about values, and we introduce the SDGs, which I would imagine most people in this room know, but a lot of people are not familiar with those. And we talk to women about, what are you invested in right now? And you would be shocked. Even women who have MBAs, even women who worked in the finance sector, even like doctors, lawyers, you name it, they don't know how they're invested. They don't know why their assets are allocated the way they're allocated. They don't know what their investments are doing. And then we start going into the conversation about, okay, here's what your cash could be doing. Here's what your fixed income could be doing. And we teach them that. And we teach them about angel investing and venture capital, because that is a thing most women are not comfortable with. We're not taught. I didn't even realize, as someone who was spinning in this space for like 25 years, that I could be an angel investor. No, I never thought about that until I was almost 60, for God's sake. It's like, we got to stop that. So we're teaching them about angel investing, and we teach them about how to think about financial advisors. Do they need one? When do they need one? We actually help them find a values-aligned advisor. So we have, in fact, a course starting on November 16th to find a values-aligned financial advisor. So if that's something that you care about, you're looking for, I would recommend you take our courses. Our courses are really cheap. It's like $150. It's nothing. Yeah. So, yeah.
Just a quick aside, our team spends the entirety of our day canvassing the world for the best impact investments. And so we think we've got the world covered. But Invest for Better and the women we've met in that network are a phenomenal amplifier for sourcing. They have brought us new ideas. So for me, it's just how important it is, to drop a cliche we've heard, your network is your net worth. Like this idea of community and sharing investable ideas is incredibly, incredibly potent.
Incredibly powerful. In fact, one of our members who's here started an Invest for Better circle. She's building it. Margaret is building it in Philadelphia, and she inspired me to do the same thing here in the Bay Area. So starting in January of next year, I'm going to start bringing women together in person on a monthly basis to talk about our money and to start thinking about how we can invest locally. So this kind of thing around being in community, sharing our knowledge, doing this work together, and breaking down these taboos, I think is so, so important. And just to give you an example of that, I said that I've learned a lot in circles, and I have, but the person who taught me about money first was my mom. And my mother was so incredibly transparent around money that I always knew her net worth. How many of you know this about your families, right? My mother was so transparent about money that as she was moving into her later years, she decided that she was going to divest herself of all her assets before she died. And so she set up brokerage accounts for my sisters and me, and she started moving her assets into them in our names. There was so much openness and so much trust in my family that there was never a question in my mind or those of my sisters that we would touch that money until my mom passed away, because if she needed it, it was hers. And we had so much trust that there was not a question in any of our minds that any of us got more than anybody else. When my mom passed, it was the easiest transition you can imagine. We barely had to do anything. And I know people whose families are breaking up over money. And it's because we keep this as such a taboo subject. We're more afraid to talk about money than we are about sex, for God's sake. I mean, we really need to break this, and I think women can break this open, and we can do it together.
Yeah. Wow. Love that. We'll leave that out there for a minute. And to get, I'll go personal here a little bit. I was fortunate enough when I lived near you, Janine, in the Bay Area here, to come to Invest for Better circles. I've since moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, part of the COVID shuffle. Woo woo. And I haven't started an Invest for Better circle. So that's on my to-do list as I go home. But I want to crack open something to get a little vulnerable here. I mean, I'm thinking of the women that I would invite to this group, and I do think it's really taboo. And I'm going through all of them in my mind, and we've never talked about money. How would you deputize those of us who would like to start an Invest for Better circle? How do you take such a taboo topic that is hard for friends and family to talk about and sit down and create this table?
That's a great question. So that's what we do. And traditionally, we have found the leaders first, and then the leaders find their members, and we empower the leaders. So we take you through some training initially, and then we provide you with all the materials that you need to have facilitated conversations. So the circles work by the women doing a little bit of pre-work. Maybe it's reading, maybe it's looking at a PowerPoint deck or filling out a form or watching a video. So they do a little pre-work, and then they come into a meeting, can be in person or via Zoom, and they have a facilitated conversation. And what's really surprising is, even though you have a very mixed group of women, they can be from different racial backgrounds, different levels of wealth, different levels of experience. You just get them to start talking about money, and the walls just start coming down, and they start making friends. It was like what happened here when you were asked to talk to the people at your table, right? You just start talking to people, and those walls just start coming down. So we help every step of the way. And then we have meetings with the leaders on a regular basis too.
And who's coming into the room? Is it both groups of people who know, like I'd imagine that a lot of people who are self-selecting to say yes to an invitation to talk about your money know a good amount about their money? Or are you bringing women in who are not as informed as they need to be about their money, and they're trying to, empower themselves? Like who are you capturing?
I would say both, but 75% of our members are non-accredited investors. So, and some of our members are brand new. We have women who are coming in who don't really know a lot about investing at all. So it really is. And then we have women who are ultra high net wealth individuals too. So it's the full spectrum. But I think what it is professional women generally. It's women who they're making more than they need. They have investable capital. They've either started and they want to do more. They want to go beyond the knowledge that we're being given in a lot of the venues. And they want to start doing things that matter with their money. Or they're women who are recently divorced or getting to retirement age and who are starting to think about their money differently too and want to take more control over their assets. So it's kind of all of that to some degree.
Okay. And then just tell us about the curriculum. Like, give us how important is financial education as a foundational layer of support to support mission-aligned investing journeys?
So when I decided to write Activate Your Money back in 2018, and I was told that I should get a publisher. I'd rethink that, but I was told to get a publisher, and that required me to write a book proposal. And part of the book proposal was a competitive analysis. And back then, when I looked at books that were written for women about money, there were virtually none. Some of the ones that existed were written by men for women. And when you looked at them, they told us how to save, they told us not to spend, they told us to budget, they told us to get a will, insurance. 30 pages of a 300-page book would be on investing. That's it. So I think there's been a lot out there around how to get your basic financial foundation down. But I would venture to say that many in this room and definitely the people we work with, we got there. We got that one. We're there. We're beyond it. We want more, right? So I don't even know that I like financial education per se because it suggests the basics. I want women to learn how to invest. I want women to learn how to grow their wealth for themselves and for the next generation. I want women to feel empowered around their money. I want them to be financial badasses. That's what I want for women. Wow. So it goes beyond just financial education for me.
Wow. Yeah, fantastic. How do you allocate resources around teaching investing? How long does that take? How much time would a circle need to really hone in on the part that's missing, the investment education?
Well, our current curriculum is a 6-part series, and for some women, we give them too much information in 6 top parts. So we're actually in the process of redoing our curriculum right now, and we're actually redoing it, one version of it specifically for Black women, because we realize that there are differences in the way different races show up around their money. And although we have a pretty even representation in our membership, we think it's important to really focus on the needs that particular groups have. So our next curriculum will probably be a little bit longer to slow things down a little bit more. And I think what we're also going to look at is front-loading some education in about a 4-month period, but then looking at how we can keep that group together for the rest of the year, because it's those relationships that matter too, right? And we want to foster and nourish those relationships so the women will stay in conversation. Wow. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Tell us, I want to transition back to your portfolio and just tell us a little bit about the journey you've been on from an impact refinement. What themes are you prioritizing? And then maybe we'll do just a few other examples within various themes.
Okay, great. And I'd love to hear some of what you are bringing to your clients and how you think about it, because you and I talked a little bit about our portfolios, and yours is a little different than mine. So what we tell women in our courses is we ask them to look at the SDGs and pick 1 to 5 of them to be their impact themes, because the truth is we are not at a point, and I don't know that we ever will be, where we're going to get perfection, right? So you're going to, in fact, one of the things we do in our circles is we have women read this article about Tesla and Exxon, where Exxon is actually rated better from an ESG metric than Tesla is. It's like, how did that happen, right? Tesla is great when it comes to environment. Some think it's horrible because of the batteries. Yeah. But it's not great in governance. And so if your rating system or your priority is governance, then an Exxon might do better than a Tesla. But if your rating system, your priority is the environment, then a Tesla might do better. So we have to know what our personal priorities are, and then we can make decisions based on those personal priorities. Mine are gender equity, things related to the environment, and other forms of equity. Those are my primary metrics that I use. Since I've been doing this a long time, I told you when I started I had like single-digit millionaire. My wealth, fortunately, has grown over time, and I have no kids. So I am taking bigger risks with my portfolio because I can and because I feel confident doing it. I mean, part of this investing and learning how to invest and following and tracking your portfolio is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. This is a lifelong adventure. And as you go along, I've been experimenting. I try things. I go, that didn't work so well. I think I'll go try this. Oh, I like that. I'm going to pile in there. So I've been experimenting all along. And I've gotten to the point where I have enough confidence and I know that I have the assets that I can take some risks. And so that real estate deal that I mentioned to you, when I did that, it felt like a really big risk to me. It's feeling less so now. It's still, I don't know. I mean, it could still go, I don't know, belly up. I don't know. But it's, so I'm willing to take more risks now.
Yeah. How would you articulate your impact objectives? What areas are you focused on, and has that changed over time, and will it continue to evolve?
So I mentioned a little bit about my impact areas, and the way I achieve them is different in different asset classes. So for example, with my cash, I chose to put my cash into local banks. I live in Oakland. It's in banks that are based in Oakland that are providing capital to female entrepreneurs and underserved populations to help them get the money they need for homes, for cars, for education. Yeah. So I am achieving through my cash some of my goals around gender and around social equity. With my fixed income, I'm doing things again with an emphasis on women and girls. Women and girls are really important to me because we have been so left out of the conversation. In fact, fun fact, yesterday, October 28th, was the 50-year anniversary of an act called the Equal Credit Act. That was the first time that women had the right to get a loan, a mortgage, or to get any kind of debt vehicle from a bank without a man signing. I was a freshman in college when women got that right. The thing to realize here, particularly those of you who are younger, this stuff was not always for us. And we got to fight like hell to keep it. Don't think for a minute that what you have enjoyed since you've been born is a right that you have forever. We fought for this hard, and looks like we got to keep fighting for it. 50 years, that's it. One woman, I read a book, and one woman talked about the fact that her husband died. She was a widow. She needed a loan. She had to get her 17-year-old son to sign for it. What a crazy world that was.
It's an urgent time. Like next week is an important week. What are the ways you think about meeting that urgency and fighting to protect what we've built thus far? And what are the biggest things we need to do to close the gaps going forward? I mean, this is the $1 million question, I think. But
just whatever you can. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I wished I could split myself in half and have two me's, because I put a lot of energy out in the world.
I think we need way more than two.
I would love two me's, and one would keep doing the work I'm doing and the other would be in politics, but I can't do both. So I just think we need to show up however we can. Because I'm so busy in this particular situation, I've been giving more money than I've ever given before. And I wrote a lot of letters to people in swing states begging them to get out and vote. I mean, you just have to do whatever you can. You have to show up and you have to do the work. And even a little bit matters. And it's the same thing with our money. Some people may think, well, I don't have that much money. Is it really going to matter if I pull my money out of the big banks and I put them in the small banks? Is it really going to matter if I shift some of my assets out of, XAX, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, and put it in something else? The answer is yes, because we aren't in this alone. We're in this collectively, and all of that matters. It all matters. So We just do what we can. And I know that a lot of women are stretched like way beyond their capacity already. They've got jobs, they've got kids, they've got commitments. It's hard. I get that. But I'll tell you another very fascinating thing. So Kevin, I don't really pay attention to Shark Tank, but I heard that a guy there, you may know him as Kevin O'Leary, I think is his name. Okay. He came out recently and he said if he looks at his 30 years of investing, 75% of his returns came from female CEOs. 75% of his returns came from female CEOs. And somebody asked him why he thought that was. Number one, they listen. Number two, he said, never underestimate the power of a mother. They know how to multitask. They know how to be resilient. They know how to get more things done than you can imagine in the amount of time they're getting it done. So, ladies, we know how to do this stuff. We just need to show up.
Yeah. So well said, Janine. Let's see, I'm getting the cue that we really want to open up this incredible resource to this entire room. So we are going to take some questions from the audience. I don't know if we have mic runners or just please stand, project. Show of hands, any questions? Yes.
The first step. Okay, the first step is to look, it could be a couple things. Look at your money, know where it's invested. Think about your cash. The easiest part of your cash to move easily is your savings account. So there are a couple of great websites. One is called Mighty Deposits. You can go on and look for an alternative bank. So that's a thing. The other thing is to look at your 401ks. Use a tool like As You Sow Invest Your Values to figure out what you're invested in right now and how it's showing up across a number of different values. And then find something better. You can move the money in your retirement accounts really easily without taking capital gain hit. And you can also read my book. It's very thorough. So just so you know, the book, every chapter ends with a take action section. And there is a companion website that you can go to and download spreadsheets, tools, watch videos. Everything is there on that website for free to help you take the actions in the book. So just pick one asset class, one pool of money, start there. So the book actually was finished in November of 2020. So it's a little bit newer than 2018. It just took a long time to write it. A lot of them are still valid. A lot of what's in the book is still valid. And I'm actually going to go through my website, I'm hoping this year, and put a lot of updated information there too. So for those of you who may not have heard in the back, what Margaret was saying was start a circle. So get together, pull your friends together and start a circle. And if you don't want to start a circle, go onto the Invest for Better website and join one of our upcoming ones in the future. Yeah. We have 2 courses that are going to run starting in November. One will start next week. It's on gender lens investing. So that one is available for sign up. So you can go sign up for that. It's going to actually be led by a woman who runs a company called Hypatia, and she has a fund called WCEO that it's a public equities fund that is investing only in companies with female CEOs, and she's going to lead the whole smart gender investing course, so you'll learn a ton from her. And then the other course is going to be led by Values Advisor, which is a platform to find a values-aligned financial advisor, and that is on finding a financial advisor. And I was actually in the midst of that course myself when Lauren and I had another talk. So when she and I had another talk and she became my financial advisor. But another thing I just want to say to honor them was part of the reason my book took me 2 years to write was because when I started writing it myself, I realized, oh, Lordy, this is going to be a lot of work, and this is going to be like the Golden Gate Bridge. It's going to take me so long to finish this, but by the time I finish, I'm going to have to start at the beginning and rewrite the whole thing again. So I reached out to a bunch of people I knew. Lauren was one of them, and over 40 women helped me write original versions of chapters. So if you're reading the book, Lauren is responsible for the early versions on the public equities chapters, chapters 7 and 8. And then after I got all that, I rewrote everything with a single voice and sent every chapter to about 25 women to review it. So that book has been written and rewritten like 3 or 4 times, but 150 women helped me. So yay to them. Yay to them.
Community, again.
I love that you asked me that question because I am delighted to say that on November 14th, there will be a soft launch of my book in German, French, Spanish, and Polish. Wow. And not only was the book translated, it was localized. So the German version will focus on, so I had a partner based out of Brussels called Better Finance, and then they had partners in each country, and they went through the book word by word and rewrote the parts of it that needed to be rewritten to focus and give examples specific to Germany. So that book will be in the market very soon.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, right. We've got 2 in the back. We'll start up front. Yeah.
The UK. So I haven't got a version for the UK, I'm sorry to say. So the only English version is the US version, and there will be differences between what's here and what's there. But some of the sections are, there are parts of that are very generic and that sort of apply to everything. And then when I get into specific examples, that's going to be different. I'm sorry. So what you're asking is how the book is, how we're making things specific to Black women and what's different for them, and then how do we not completely destroy the importance of integrating together as well, right? Okay, so I will do my best on the first question. Part of what I've learned is that there's a lot more trauma around the question of money in a lot of Black communities than there is necessarily in other communities. And also there is a different way of thinking about how money needs to be available to your community in those communities too. So there's also not been the kind of generational wealth that we have. So just the stories about our money and the reality around our money and where we are financially is very different between more of a white community and a Black community. And I hope I did that well and I did justice to the women in the room. In terms of the integration, I totally agree with you that having something that's just for Black people and something that's just for white people is probably not a great idea, because I do think it's really important for us to create things together more. And so that's part of what we're trying to bring into what we're doing too. I'm going to think about it more because I don't have a solid answer for you. I do think there's a value in having our own separate communities. This is how I'm going to do it. I just solved the problem. Thank you for asking.
We're working in real time.
That's how my brain works. So I think, there are our circles, and then there's the bigger Invest for Better community. And we're trying to do more and more in that bigger Invest for Better community together in person. So maybe there's a way that we can do things where your smaller, more intimate conversations, some of those can be with women that you feel safer with and that maybe have a similar story to your own. But then you can come back into our bigger community and share that experience among all types of women. So maybe that's the way, but I'm going to think about your question more because I think it's a really good question. Okay, so my guess is, as the daughter of a daughter dad, that she's hearing more than you think she is, for one thing. And then I think you can introduce her to communities like ours where she may be able to hear that better, and offer her books, offer her materials, just offer her things. And my guess is she will come to it. So I think she's listening more than you think. That's my... Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to hear more about the research that you're doing. And the way you ended, it's not just for us, it's for the next generations. Oh my God, I so agree with you. Yeah. I so hope that those of us in the room who were not trained in this are the last generation, right? I want women to learn this not just for themselves. I want them to learn it for their daughters and their sons as well. So thank you for saying that. So the wage gap is terrible, and I know there are people who are working on it, and I applaud you for doing that. There's also an investment gap. So women don't invest as much as men. We live longer than men, and we have gaps often in our work because we take off time to have children, etc. So the pay gap is not only we're not making as much, we're not making it for as long a time, we're not investing early, we're not investing aggressively enough. In fact, some research by Elvest suggested that 70 cents on the dollar that women save is in cash, which means that that money is going down in value over time because it's not even keeping up with the rate of inflation. So we're not investing aggressively enough, and that is causing an investment gap as well. So we're already being hit with the wages, and then we're hitting ourselves because we're not investing. So yes, I think investing smart, investing for the long term can lead to help reduce some of that. So we haven't done an international one. So the way we do it is we have a core curriculum, which is about 6 sessions long, and then we have advanced courses that we call deep dives, and we have them around some themes. So we have gender smart. We've got one on environmental investing. We've done one on racial justice investing. So those are the primary themes that we've focused on, but have not really done anything in international yet, because there's only so much time in a day. That it's worth thinking about. I mean, I spent 20 plus years of my career doing international work, so.
Bring more resources to invest for better. I think that's the nut to crack there.
Yeah.
Any final questions from the audience? Okay, if not, I'll take the opportunity to ask our final question. I think lots of food for thought. I think lots of inspiration and ideas forming from the same very engaged crowd. What, if you could leave everyone with a call to action, what words would you offer?
Okay, I'm going to be crass here. So when I told you that I went to this FinCon event, and I went last year and I met this lovely woman. Her name is Bernadette Joy, and she is a FinCon influencer. She has about 300,000 followers, I think, and she recently wrote a book. And she sent me the book to read, and she sent me all of her marketing materials as well. And one of her marketing pieces said, "Get off your ass and do the work."